Hi, everybody. This is Evan Ginzburg, associate producer of The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, 350 Days with Bret Hart, Superstar Billy Graham, and 3 Dozen Legends. Executive producer on Wrestling Then and Now, Killer Kowalski, Don Arnold, Nikolai Volkov, many others. And, of course, your admin here at Evan Ginzburg's Old School Wrestling Memories. And I woke up and saw all over the internet that today is Lanny Poffo's birthday, and he was a very dear friend of mine. I booked him as an agent many, many, many times, but he was also a close personal friend. And Lanny would sleep on my couch, and my wife, who is from Seoul, Korea, would make him healthy Korean soups and healthy Korean kimchi and such. And he was part of the family, stayed here many, many times. And 2 years after the fact, it's still hard to wrap my head around that he's gone. Lanny Poffo, an eclectic, interesting, well-rounded, he was much more than pro wrestling. That genius gimmick wasn't a gimmick. He had an encyclopedic memory. He memorized words of epic poems, really long, long poems, and he he knew show tunes. An interesting guy, Lanny Poffo, and he, throughout his life, he had his hand in everything. He acted in a couple of films. I'll tell you a funny Lanny Poffo story, film related. As associate producer on The Wrestler, I did a half dozen or so casting calls. So I bring Lanny in to meet Darren Aronofsky. And they hit it off because Lanny was just a warm, friendly, intelligent guy, and everybody liked him. So Aronofsky is interviewing Lanny, and he sees the charisma's there and the looks are there and the talent is there. But when the smoke cleared, he said to me, "Evan, he looks too healthy. It doesn't fit the film." And interestingly, when we did the casting for that very sad autograph scene in The Wrestler, I was telling Darren, we could get all of these legends, Moolah and Mae Young and Lou Albano and Nikolai and Sheik. They were all alive at the time. We shot in 2008. And Darren debated it. And ultimately, he said, no, I don't want Mickey to look like the what's wrong with this picture. So in that scene, there were a lot of extras who were, actors, extras. But the only two legitimate wrestlers were Manny Yarborough, who was a black sumo. Manny Yarborough fought in UFC, a friend of mine, and Johnny Valiant. And Johnny Valiant, without the bleach blonde Valiant brother look, he had gray hair at the time. A lot of people don't realize Johnny Valiant was even in that scene, but Johnny, what happened with that scene, it's interesting. I had taken Darren Aronofsky and the executive producer and the screenwriter and various others in the crew to wrestling events for months and months before we shot, because Darren wanted it to ring authentic. And I took them to a convention in New Jersey, and it was basically the WWE Hall of Fame. It was Moolah, Mae Young, Tony Atlas, Nikolai, Sheik, Johnny Valiant, etc., so on. And there was like no people there. There was like nobody there. And Aronofsky, who was an 80s wrestling fan, who lost interest over the years, but at the time, him and the screenwriter and the executive producer, etc., so on, they were 80s wrestling fans during the Hulkamania era. And Darren's 50-ish at this point right now, so, the math makes sense. So there was nobody there. And Aronofsky kept going, "Evan, where is everybody? Where is everybody?" and the Iron Sheik's head was down on a table, asleep. That's how sad this wrestling convention in New Jersey was. It was really a pitiful spectacle, and that was not in the original screenplay. And it was added. It was added because it was so powerful and sad. And if you watch that scene in the movie, a lot of that merchandise was my stuff. And I did the set design on that one scene as far as what was on the table anyway, because that was all my merchandise filling up the various tables in that sad autograph scene. And I acted with Mickey, and it was totally improv, but I've told that story before, so I don't want to bore you with it. But anyway, getting back to Lanny, so Aronofsky interviews him, they hit it off, and he's like, Evan, he looks too healthy. He looks too healthy. And Lanny was disappointed, but, he thought it was amusing. Joel David Fleming says Lanny Poffo was amazing, R.I.P. Thank you so much. Let me say a few things about Lanny, wrestling related. For the guys who do he was just a jobber, that's nonsense, absolute nonsense. He wrestled Hulk Hogan on Saturday night's main event. 4 million people watched it, and he won the match. That's how respected Lanny was, that Hogan put over Lanny. He didn't pin him, of course, but Lanny technically won that match. And Joel says he always undersold himself. Well, Lanny was humble, and he knew his brother had a bigger career and was a more talented wrestler. But Lanny, Lanny wrestled Hogan throughout the entire WWF circuit, including Madison Square Garden. He main evented Madison Square Garden. Then he had the run where he was managing Mr. Perfect, and they were great together. And Lanny was very saddened when Kurt Hennig died, because not only was he a nice guy, he was as great a talent as virtually anyone, Mr. Perfect, and Lanny knew that. If there's one thing Lanny knew, it was wrestling, He knew the legit guys and the poses, boy. So, so Lanny had a good run, and he saved his money. And let me say this, for the guys on my page who have a knee-jerk, reaction like I kick their granny anytime I'm critical of WWE, Lanny had no bitterness towards WWE or Vince McMahon. He said Vince McMahon paid him well and pushed him, and he was very grateful for that very successful run. And so that's what wrestling journalism is. I'm the senior editor over at Pro Wrestling Stories. We have 1,000 stories on there. So when, fanboys come at me, you're petty, you're biased, I'm talking from my experience, what legends, friends have told me. Lanny had a positive experience in WWE. Meanwhile, many others didn't. And they told me about various things that hurt them. And I'm talking friends at dinners, on the road, at conventions. So Johnny Valiant, for example, who never broke $100,000 wrestling or managing. The Valiant brothers were the #1 tag team in the world in the 70s. Vince McMahon was his buddy in military school. His buddy. And Johnny was later unceremoniously dropped with no notice, no reason. To the day he died, he didn't know why he was let go from the WWF. And he lost a house. He lost a house because of it. he had left his day job to come back to wrestling when Vince called him. And later, it was a mistake because he was let go and there's no pension, there's no 401k, there's no health benefits, and so I know from the mouths of legends themselves who slept on my couch, who were dear friends, the good, the bad, and the ugly of working for WWE. So if I say something critical, don't throw you're biased, you're petty, you're this, you're that. I just told you the positive side. Lanny had no ill will towards WWE or Vince McMahon. And he told me that many times. There were plenty of wrestlers he had ill will towards. He said when he was a kid, Ox Baker really hurt him in the ring. A punch, almost knocked him out. And, Lanny was always taught you protect the guy you're in the ring with. And I like Ox Baker. I mean, he's gone now, but my experiences with him were wonderful. But, there's two sides that, these are real human beings with flaws and, But anyway, I'm getting off subject. So Lanny Poffo, last year, December 31st, when the ball was dropping, I'm sitting here with my wife. And all I could think about as that ball was dropping was, I can't believe Lanny's gone. It just, it was hard to feel joy after a year where one of your closest, dearest friends is gone. Joe David Fleming says, such a decent man. Yeah, that's it. So I'll tell you a couple other Lanny stories while I'm on the subject. I book him for a indie match. He's wrestling Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal's doing the Black Machismo gimmick, and Lanny said that Randy Savage and him, Lanny embraced the gimmick. He didn't feel like that Jay Lethal was ripping off his brother, and Lanny embraced it. So they do a gimmick where they're wrestling each other on an indie, and before the match, Lanny hands me his wallet. He didn't want to leave it in a strange dressing room. And, that was the level of trust we had. The man handed me his wallet. And, So, JP Zarker over at Pro Wrestling Stories did the Genius Cast, where he documented Lanny and his brother and his father, Angelo, their whole life, It's nice that it was documented. It's all out there. A lot of what I'm telling you, you could hear it from Lanny's own mouth. And I'd like to say that this holiday season, cherish your friends, cherish your family. Take your kid to visit that elderly relative. Many, many, many holiday seasons ago, when I was a kid, my dad, who was a taxi driver, took me all the way to Philadelphia from New York to visit an elderly aunt. Another time, all the way out on Long Island to visit another elderly aunt. And this woman just hugged and hugged and hugged me and wept with joy because she didn't get a lot of visitors. She was so grateful. Maybe instead of another toy, another video game, teach your kids, what's really important. Friends and family. One day when we're all, ready to go, what's important are friends and family. We're all going to be in the same size casket for the most part, except for Andre the Giant. Anyway, A little black humor. So I was at Ring of Honor the other day. Here's another pet peeve of mine. If you're critical of anything in today's wrestling and you're an older guy, you get the knee jerk, you're just living in the past. Oh, just stop with that BS. Please, please, please. I was at Ring of Honor last Friday. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Commander, a luchador doing crazy high spots, to me stole the show. And I know a lot of old school fans don't like lucha. They feel it's too choreographed. They have no problem with The Undertaker rising from the grave or Kane in some ridiculous angle. That's no problem. But luchadors, they have trouble with. They can't handle it. So I'm sitting at Ring of Honor last Friday. Tonight I'll be at New York Wrestling Connection on Long Island, a quality indie. And I love wrestling. I love Ospreay, Omega, Gunther. There you go. Again, for those of you who think I just hate WWE, Gunther is like the best thing going. I mean, over there. That guy's great. He's old school. He wrestles. He gives 110%. The matches feel like they're meaningful. They're championships. The belt means something. Gunther. I like Cody also. Gives 110%. He has charisma. Falls into a little of the same 5 moves WWE syndrome, but I like Cody. I like Reigns on the right night when he has his working boots on. I like Kevin Owens. I like Sami Zayn. I like Charlotte. I like Asuka. What I don't like is when it feels like a circus. Every time Damian Priest comes on in a match, 37 guys and Mammy comes out. I mean, it renders it into a cartoon. I think these are legitimate, praise and criticism. They have some tremendous wrestlers, but it still comes down to how you present it. So to come at me like I'm your enemy, I do hundreds and hundreds of posts on this page. Hundreds. Pretty much every hour on the hour until the middle of the night. So if you disagree with me on one or two things, I'm not your mortal enemy. I mean, it's wrestling. It's not world politics. It's not, if we disagree on something, it's okay. It really is okay. It doesn't make you a bad person or me a bad person. In fact, if I give a mixed review to a WWE pay-per-view, and what I find is I'm pretty numb until the middle of the pay-per-view, and then Gunther or Cody or Reigns or somebody comes out and saves it. And, and I enjoy what's worth watching on the pay-per-view. So if I give a mixed review to a pay-per-view, it's the same as reviewing a movie or reviewing a play or reviewing a concert. It's not meant to, insult you, in any way. I'm being honest. And I saw Ring of Honor on Friday live at the Hammerstein, and the Hammerstein has some great memories. I thought Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson back in 2008 era, when Nigel was champ, I think that was some of the greatest wrestling I ever saw. I think that was Flash, Steamboat, Dory Funk, Jack Briscoe level wrestling. And people would dismiss those guys. They're all spot monkeys. No, watch those matches. They're magnificent matches. You could prefer Dory Funk and Jack Briscoe, sure, of course. But it doesn't negate the talent of a Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness. And when Nigel came out and had a pure wrestling match, with Lee Moriarty last Friday, I thought it was excellent. And so did the fans, So, but there were things on the show I didn't quite like as much. It's called being an honest critic. The fact that you enjoy the WWE product and 37 people running out every Damian Priest match, your time is better invested than mine. You enjoyed it more than me. It was the same 3 hours or whatnot that we invested. I'm old. I don't want to squander evenings if it's not great. So I thought CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, the last match that they had, the bloody brawl, I thought it was great. Yeah, I thought Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania was excellent. It's not that I just pan them for the sake of it. There's certain business practices, including their pricing, that I just don't agree with. I don't think sitting on top of a stadium with an obstructed view for $300 or $400 a ticket, I don't get it. I don't endorse it. And if I want to be critical of it, that's my right. If you spend it and you enjoy watching it, more power to you. But anyway, this page is meant to be nostalgic, warm, fun. Really. If there's one or two posts you disagree with, let it go, or politely we'll discuss it. But once you start with name calling and insults or ageism, you're old, you're out of touch. No. I pay for indie wrestling tickets, Ring of Honor, AEW. I do subscribe to Netflix and Max and other channels that have wrestling content on it. I'm not one of these guys who do there's been no good wrestling since the territories, because I don't feel that way. But I treat today's wrestling like a smorgasbord. I pick and choose, what I enjoy and watch it, and what I don't enjoy, I don't watch it. I haven't watched Raw or SmackDown since 2016. It was a New Year's resolution that I actually kept. I just found that the 3-hour investment wasn't worth it to me for the 50 minutes of wrestling or whatnot. I'd rather go to the gym or watch a great movie. It's just a better use of or work on a project. Speaking of projects, in 2025, I plan on releasing movies and books that we've been working on for years, that COVID, interrupted and hurt. And I'm not free to discuss it right now, some of these projects, but I certainly will let you know. And if you've seen The Wrestler or 350 Days, or even Wrestling Then and Now, the documentary, which we did on pennies, we strive to do quality work. And, and that's why sometimes it takes years to release something. We're not churning out content. We're not pumping out stuff just for the sake of it. And ultimately, as crazy as this may sound to some people, when you hit my age, I look older than I am because my sinuses were obliterated from the cold here in New York. When you hit my age, it's about what you leave behind. And I'm going to be re-releasing a book I wrote 25 years ago, Apartment 4B, like in Brooklyn, about the East Flatbush Brooklyn in the 70s. Bruce Lee, Clint Eastwood, all the icons of that era are in the book. And short story collection, going to be re-releasing that. And we're working on the John Tolis biography, Mike Lano and myself, and another book, Wrestling Rings, Blackboards, and Movie Sets, a short story collection about my life. And like I said, documentary projects that are going to be meaningful. Some of these are wrestling related, some aren't. Some are a combination of wrestling and other things. Wrestling Rings, Blackboards, and Movie Sets. Pretty much how I spent my life. Involved with wrestling, involved with education, involved with the arts. And wrestling, when done well, is an amazing art. It's an amazing art. And one of the reasons I don't like when it becomes too circus-like. And, you know, C-Rat says that sounds cool. See, C-Rat, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. He was at Madison Square Garden the other day, and I wasn't. And for a variety of reasons. One, I wasn't feeling 100% sinus infection or whatnot. Two, the ticket prices. Three, a predictable product. However, he went with his son, and they had a good time. And that's legit. Kids see it with awe and wonder. I'm watching it 50 plus years. I'm attending Madison Square Garden cards since 1974. So, when I see a steel cage match, I'm thinking Bruno and Stan Hansen, Bruno and Zbyszko, Pat Patterson and Bob Backlund, Snooker and Morocco. I was sitting there when Snooker leapt off the cage on him. So for me to see CM Punk run out, in a towel from the shower, to me, that's, comedy. It doesn't, in the old days, a cage match was the bloody blow-off to a violent feud. So, I look at it differently. But again, if you enjoyed it and you got your money's worth, that's great. If your kid enjoyed it, that's memories for life. So, but if we disagree on what is or isn't quality, it doesn't make us enemies. And, too many wrestling fanboys are too emotionally involved where, the soldiers in the imaginary WWE versus AEW war, they're out of their minds. I mean, you say something critical about either of them, oh, you must be, a WWE mark or an AEW mark. How about I just didn't care for that particular show or match? And anyway, I don't want to beat this to death. Let me leave you with this. It's the end of the year. It's going to be the start of a new one in just a few days. Surround yourself with mutually supportive friends and family. Yes, C-Rat said, that's what it is for me now. If the kid has fun, I am good. Good, respect. My dad died when I was 20. Some of my greatest memories were going to wrestling with my father. So your kid one day will cherish the nights he went with you to wrestling. And C-Rat, you need a proofreader, because you actually wrote, and I know you intended the exact opposite. It should be TOO, because what you did actually says you enjoy tribalism, and I know you don't mean that. You said yay to much tribalism. It should be too much, TOO. Anyway, that's the English teacher in me. So, let me get back to the finale of this. Surround yourself with mutually supportive friends and family. Follow your muse. Help others. Help others. One of the most meaningful things I did this year was rescued 2 stray kittens that were living under a car in a garage, struggling. One of their family had their tail ripped off, hiding in an engine because it's warmer. It's a hard life. So we rescued these 2 kittens, and I just adore them. They're like children to me. So, do kind things, volunteer, help animals, help people, visit elderly friends, neighbors, and relatives who are lonely. Do good things. Don't sit on Facebook just fighting with people over nonsense. And attain some level of spiritualism. It doesn't have to be religion. I practice Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga. It helps soothe me. It's a lot of pain and loss in life. I started this with Lanny, but every year more and more friends are gone. The older you get, more and more friends are gone. More and more family are gone. And it's not worth sitting and fighting over stuff. If you are Democrat or Republican, yes, you may disagree with stuff that the other people sincerely feel, but you know what? People are people. They want a nice place to live. They want a decent paying job. They want benefits. They want to be happy. They want family. They want friends. Doesn't matter Democrat or Republican. I stopped arguing politics, altogether. I'd like to stop arguing wrestling. That's a good resolution. Don't argue about wrestling in 2025. It gets too heated too fast. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it a wrap here. Let me know what you think. It's from the heart. God bless Lanny Poffo and all the friends and family we've lost along the way. And thank you to the fans. And here's the other side of social media. Thank you to the fans and social media for remembering guys like Lanny. It's not just about, the biggest names. It's about guys who sacrificed and, it was a hard road to entertain us all those years. These guys worked 300 plus days a year. It's basically what our film 350 Days is about. The NWA champs worked 350 days. When we made that documentary, Bret Hart said he worked 330 days when he was champ. Greg Valentine at his peak said he was wrestling 320 days. It's a lot of sacrifice to entertain us. So respect them, honor them. And that's what pages like this are really for. It's if you like the page, tell a friend. Spread the word, good word. If you like our films, we're not getting rich from any of it, trust me. Even The Wrestler was, a low-budget indie film. We shot it on $6 million. That would be like the food budget on The Avengers. We did an entire movie on that. Sounds like a lot of money to laymen, but, it's nothing for a film with legitimate name actors and such. So, anyway, folks, if I'm not back before the new year, happy, healthy, prosperous new year. And thank you all for your support of this page. It means a lot to me. And for your friendship, too. Many of you are friends on here. I'm not going to do a whole long list of people that have helped the page because, one thing I learned in show business, and I have hosted radio and TV shows and such over the years, is you don't do like a list of people because the one or two people you forget are going to be insulted. So thank you to everybody who contributes clippings and results. And one guy I really have to mention, Darren Antola, he sends me dozens and dozens of clips every day, so, very kind, very kind. Yeah, C-Rat, same to you and your kid. Enjoy that wrestling. Let me say this. My best friend's nephew, who I'm going with to wrestling tonight, we never took the kids to WWE. We took them to Ring of Honor and Indies, where you can meet the wrestlers, get pictures, shake hands. You might want to try that with kids also, because to kids, they're larger than life, and you're meeting them, and they're posing for pictures with you, and it's a beautiful experience, and again, something they'll cherish when they're older, the first wrestler they met or whatnot. So support indie everything, indie films, indie publishing, indie wrestling, indie music, indie everything. All right, guys. I'll leave you with that, and have a great, great new year, and much love, respect. Take care.